In an instant, a decorated military officer's dignity can be reduced to nothing. One moment, Major Darius Holt stood tall in his service uniform, a symbol of honor earned through years of sacrifice. The next, cold metal handcuffs bit into his wrists as he was paraded through a hotel lobby like a criminal. "Turn around, hands behind your head," the officer commanded, his voice cutting through the quiet hotel corridor. For what crime? For being a black man in uniform, deemed suspicious by someone who saw threat where there was only service. The rain drummed against the windows of the Crescent Grove Hotel that night, drowning out the whispers of shocked onlookers. Major Holt, exhausted from a week of field exercises, had simply wanted rest. Instead, he found himself facing the barrel of prejudice, trapped in a nightmare where his stars and stripes offered no protection. Have you ever witnessed justice abandoned at the altar of bias? Have you felt that sharp pang when someone is judged not by their character, but by their appearance? "I haven't done anything wrong. Release me at once," Major Holt protested, his voice steady despite the humiliation burning through him. The officers only tightened their grip. What happens when the system meant to protect becomes the oppressor? When those sworn to uphold justice become its greatest threat? For Major Darius Holt, the answer came in the form of an unexpected savior. As police prepared to take him away, a sleek black sedan screeched into the parking lot. Colonel Simone Monroe stepped out, phone already at her ear, a direct line to the highest levels of military command. What followed left everyone speechless as the Pentagon itself intervened in this small-town injustice. This isn't just another story of discrimination. This is a moment when power structures collided, when bias met authority, and when a man's dignity hung in the balance of a single phone call. The glare of headlights cut through the downpour as Major Darius Holt guided his aging SUV into the Crescent Grove Hotel parking lot. His shoulders ached from a week of intensive field training exercises, muscles taut from leading drills, mind foggy from back-to-back strategy sessions. All he craved was a hot shower and the comfort of a clean bed. The weight of his dress uniform felt heavier tonight. The crisp navy fabric, adorned with pins and medals that told stories of courage and commitment, had always filled him with pride. Yet experience had taught Darius that these symbols of honor could transform into markers of scrutiny in certain eyes. The lobby's warm lighting offered momentary relief from the storm outside. Droplets of rain slid from his cap as he approached the front desk with measured steps, the same disciplined gait that had carried him through 15 years of military service. "Good evening, Major Holt. It's been a while," called Priya, the night receptionist. Her genuine smile was a welcome contrast to the suspicious glances he'd grown accustomed to elsewhere. "Room 312 is ready for you, the one with the view of the garden you liked last time." "Thank you, Priya. That sounds perfect." Darius's voice carried the gentle authority that had earned him respect among his troops. As they completed the check-in process, Mr. Larkin, the hotel's security guard, positioned himself near the entrance. His gaze darted between Darius and the row of luggage by the door, fingers tapping against his belt. The guard's radio crackled, and he murmured something inaudible into it, eyes never leaving the major's uniform. Darius noticed the scrutiny but chose to ignore it, a skill refined through countless similar encounters. He'd learned long ago that addressing every sideways glance would leave no energy for anything else. Taking his key card, he nodded politely to both Priya and Larkin before heading toward the elevator. In the polished metal doors, his reflection stared back. A decorated officer whose service to country promised respect but never guaranteed it. Room 312 welcomed him with stillness. The distant rumble of thunder matched his deep exhale as he placed his cap on the desk. For now, at least, he could shed the weight of others' bad perceptions and simply exist as himself, if only for a few precious hours. The sharp knock jolted Darius from his thoughts. 3 rapid strikes against wood, authoritative, demanding immediate attention. He checked his watch. 11:27 p.m. Too late for housekeeping, too early for a shift change. Standing slowly, he approached the door with the cautious readiness that combat training had instilled in him. Through the peephole, 3 figures waited in the hallway's amber light. Mr. Larkin, flanked by 2 uniformed police officers. The taller one's hand rested casually on his holster, a posture Darius recognized as prepared aggression masked as standard procedure. "Coming," he called, straightening his uniform jacket before opening the door. "Major Holt?" The taller officer's voice cut through pleasantries. His nameplate read, "Brant. We need to ask you some questions regarding suspicious activity reported in this hotel." Darius maintained eye contact. "I'm a registered guest who checked in less than an hour ago, officer. May I ask what this is about?" The second officer, McAllister, stepped forward. "We received reports of an unauthorized individual in military attire moving through restricted areas of the hotel." His tone suggested the conclusion was already drawn. "I assure you, I've been in this room since check-in, except for a brief stop at the ice machine." Darius gestured toward the bucket on his nightstand. "I'm happy to clear up any confusion." Brant's radio crackled. He turned away slightly, muttering something before facing Darius again. "We'll need to inspect your room, sir." "On what grounds?" Darius kept his voice measured despite the familiar tension building in his chest, the quiet knowledge that this interaction was following a well-worn script. "Hotel security protocol," Larkin interjected, though he avoided direct eye contact. Without waiting for permission, Officer Brant pushed past, scanning the modest room with exaggerated thoroughness. McAllister followed, opening the bathroom door without asking. "My credentials are in my wallet," Darius offered, reaching slowly toward the desk. "Stop. Hands where we can see them." Brant's hand flew to his weapon. Darius froze, palms raised. "Officer, I'm simply trying to provide identification to resolve this matter." "Turn around, hands behind your back," McAllister ordered, pulling handcuffs from his belt. "This is unnecessary," Darius began. "Now," Brant barked, stepping closer. Years of military discipline kept Darius calm as he complied, turning slowly to face the wall. The cold metal of handcuffs clicked around his wrists, each notch a reminder of how quickly respect could be stripped away. "You're making a serious mistake," Darius stated, his voice betraying no fear despite the hurricane of emotions building within. "I'm an active-duty major stationed at Fort Marshall. One call to my commanding officer will confirm this." "Save it for the station," Brant replied, gripping Darius's arm to guide him toward the door. In that moment, with his hands bound behind him, Major Darius Holt understood that his uniform, his very identity as a soldier, had been transformed from a symbol of protection into a perceived threat. The elevator doors parted to reveal the lobby, now populated with late-night arrivals and curious onlookers. Every head turned as Officers Brant and McAllister marched Major Holt through the central space, a decorated military officer in handcuffs, the ultimate contradiction. Priya gasped from behind the reception desk, her hand flying to cover her mouth. "This is wrong," she whispered to Mr. Patel, the night manager, who rushed forward with confusion etched across his face. "Officers, there must be some misunderstanding. Major Holt is a valued regular guest," Mr. Patel protested, struggling to keep pace with their determined stride. "Step back, sir. This is police business," McAllister responded without slowing. A group of businessmen lowered their drinks in the lounge area, their expressions shifting from initial judgment to uncomfortable recognition as they noticed Darius's rank insignia. A woman recording with her phone whispered to her companion, "That's a major they're arresting." Through it all, Darius walked with his head held high, the same posture that had carried him through combat zones and diplomatic missions. His face revealed nothing, though inside a storm brewed, indignation battling with the exhausting familiarity of this treatment. This wasn't his first encounter with prejudice dressed as procedure. The difference now was the audience, witnesses to his degradation, forming judgments without context. "I have the right to know the specific charges," Darius stated clearly, his voice carrying across the now silent lobby. "And I have the right to make a phone call." Brant tightened his grip. "You can make all the calls you want at the station." As they approached the glass doors leading to the parking lot, a young black woman stepped forward from the crowd. "I'm recording this," she announced. "What's the reason for his arrest?" The question hung in the air, unanswered, as they pushed through to the rainy night. Have you ever witnessed someone's entire identity compressed into a single superficial judgment? Have you seen respect evaporate based solely on appearance? In that moment, Major Darius Holt, with decorations that told stories of courage and service, was reduced to nothing more than a threat, his years of sacrifice rendered invisible by bias. The rain washed down his uniform as the officers directed him toward their patrol car. But before they could reach it, headlights swept across the parking lot, illuminating the scene in harsh white light. The sleek black sedan screeched to a halt, sending water splashing across the asphalt. Before the engine fully quieted, Colonel Simone Monroe emerged, her commanding presence immediately drawing all eyes. Rain pelted her immaculate uniform as she strode purposefully toward the officers and their handcuffed charge. "What is the meaning of this?" Her voice cut through the downpour with precision that stopped the officers mid-step. Officer Brandt shifted uncomfortably. "Ma'am, this is police business. I'll have to ask you to." "I am Colonel Simone Monroe, Joint Base Commander at Fort Marshall," she interrupted, her tone leaving no room for debate. "And you are detaining one of my officers without cause." McAllister tightened his grip on Darius's arm. "We received reports of suspicious activity." "Suspicious activity?" Colonel Monroe's eyebrow arched. "Major Holt just completed a 72-hour training operation under my direct command. He checked into this hotel with proper authorization and identification. What exactly is suspicious about an exhausted officer seeking rest?" The gathering crowd of hotel guests had grown, phones recording the confrontation as it unfolded. Brandt glanced nervously at the audience. "We're following protocol based on security concerns," he insisted, though his voice had lost its earlier authority. Colonel Monroe pulled out her phone. "Then you won't mind if I make a call to verify Major Holt's status." Without waiting for permission, she dialed and placed the call on speaker. "This is Colonel Monroe requesting immediate verification for Major Darius Holt, authorization code Delta 794. The response came through with crystal clarity. "Pentagon Command Center. Verification confirmed for Major Holt." "What's the situation, Colonel?" "Major Holt is currently being detained by local police at the Crescent Grove Hotel without explanation or cause. I'm requesting immediate intervention." A new voice came through the speaker, deeper, carrying the unmistakable weight of high command. "This is General Wallace. Put the officers on the line." Colonel Monroe held the phone toward the increasingly uncomfortable policeman. Brandt cleared his throat. "This is Officer Brandt, Crescent Grove PD. Officer Brandt, this is General Wallace at the Pentagon. Major Holt is currently engaged in classified operations essential to national security. His detention without substantiated cause represents a direct interference with military affairs. Release him immediately." The parking lot fell silent, except for the steady rhythm of rain. Officer McAllister's hand moved instinctively to his keys. We were responding to a call," Brandt stammered. "And now you're responding to a direct order from the Pentagon," General Wallace replied. "Release Major Holt now. A formal inquiry into this incident will follow." The handcuffs came off with a metallic click that seemed to echo across the parking lot. Major Holt rubbed his wrists, his expression unchanged despite the dramatic reversal. Colonel Monroe ended the call and stepped between Darius and the officers. "I expect a full written explanation of this incident on my desk by 0800 tomorrow, including the name of the individual who made the complaint." The power dynamic had shifted completely. Where moments before the officers had commanded absolute authority, they now stood awkwardly in the rain, their jurisdiction suddenly questionable, their judgment publicly challenged. "We were just doing our job," McAllister offered weakly. "No," Colonel Monroe replied. "You were doing something else entirely, and we all know what that was." The hotel lobby transformed into an impromptu sanctuary as staff guided Major Holt and Colonel Monroe away from the retreating officers. Priya rushed forward with towels while Mr. Patel repeatedly apologized, his hands trembling with a mixture of shame and outrage. "This should never have happened in our establishment," Mr. Patel insisted. "I will personally ensure those responsible face consequences." Major Holt accepted a towel, drying his face with methodical composure. His expression revealed nothing of the turmoil within, a skill honed through years of maintaining calm in crisis. "Thank you for your intervention, Colonel," he said quietly when they had a moment alone. "Though I'm certain there was no actual call from the Pentagon." Colonel Monroe's tight smile confirmed his suspicion. Sometimes perception creates reality, Major. The general was actually my brother-in-law checking in about Sunday dinner, but they didn't need to know that. A small group of hotel guests approached hesitantly, led by the young woman who had been recording. Major, we have footage of everything, she offered. If you need witnesses for a complaint, we're all willing to provide statements. Darius nodded his appreciation. Thank you, that might be necessary. When the commotion finally settled, Colonel Monroe placed a hand on Darius's shoulder. This isn't over. What happened tonight represents exactly what we fight against, both in uniform and out of it. I give you my word that this incident will not be buried. I've experienced variations of this my entire career, Colonel, Darius replied. The uniform both shields and exposes me, depending on who's looking. Later, alone in his room with the fresh memory of cold metal against his wrists, Darius stood before the mirror. The reflection showed his medals, each one earned through courage, intelligence, and sacrifice. Yet to those officers, none of that mattered. His lifetime of service had been instantly negated by prejudice. He picked up his phone and began documenting the incident in precise detail. Names, times, exact statements. This record wouldn't just disappear into some administrative file. This time, he would ensure accountability. How would you have responded in his position? Would you have maintained such dignity in the face of injustice? Would you have found the strength to transform humiliation into purpose? For Major Darius Holt, this night would become not just an injury to overcome, but a catalyst for change he was uniquely positioned to demand. By morning, video footage of Major Holt in handcuffs had spread across social media platforms. News vans lined the hotel entrance as reporters competed for exclusive details about the decorated officer handcuffed for existing. Headlines flashed across screens nationwide. Black Major handcuffed at hotel until Pentagon intervenes. Military officer detained for checking in while black. Crescent Grove PD faces backlash over treatment of black veteran. Within 48 hours, the police department announced an administrative review of the incident. Chief Garcia faced reporters with a carefully prepared statement. We take allegations of bias extremely seriously. The officers involved have been placed on administrative duty pending a complete investigation. Behind closed doors, the reality proved more consequential. Internal affairs investigators requested hotel security footage, witness statements, and radio communications from that night. Officers Brandt and McAllister faced questioning about their decision-making process and apparent disregard for Major Holt's military identification. At the Crescent Grove Hotel, management implemented immediate changes. Mr. Patel organized mandatory training sessions for all staff on implicit bias recognition. Security guard Larkin was suspended pending review of his actions, particularly his decision to contact police without first consulting management. We failed one of our most respected guests, Mr. Patel admitted in a press conference. This failure demands more than an apology. It requires fundamental change in how we operate. Major Holt could have retreated from the spotlight, but instead, he chose to leverage his position and the incident's visibility. In a televised interview that garnered millions of views, he spoke with measured clarity about the pattern this incident represented. This isn't about one night or two officers, he explained. This is about systems that automatically criminalize black men regardless of their service or status. If my uniform and rank couldn't protect me from baseless detention, what chance do everyday citizens have? His words resonated with communities nationwide. Civil rights organizations reached out, offering platforms for his voice. Military leadership, concerned about both public relations and genuine issues affecting service members of color, invited him to consult on new training protocols. The incident became a case study in police academies across 3 states. Lecture halls filled with cadets watched the footage, analyzing the officer's errors not just in procedure, but in fundamental judgment. Within military circles, discussions emerged about creating resources for service members experiencing discrimination off base. Colonel Monroe championed a new rapid response protocol, ensuring that no military personnel would face similar situations without immediate support. What began as one man's humiliation transformed into a movement for accountability. revealing how deeply bias remained embedded in systems ostensibly designed to protect all citizens equally. 6 months after that rain-soaked night, Major Darius Holt stood before a community gathering at Fort Marshall. The metal links that had once bound his wrists were now transformed, melted down, and reforged into a small medallion he carried as a reminder, not of humiliation, but of purpose. These restraints were meant to control, to diminish, to silence, he told the assembled crowd. But what happened instead? They amplified my voice. They strengthened my resolve. They connected me to countless others who faced similar injustice. The changes sparked by that night continued to ripple outward. The Crescent Grove Police Department had implemented body camera requirements and revised their detention protocols. Hotel chains across the state adopted new training standards. Military bases established clearer support systems for personnel facing discrimination off-duty. Yet Major Holt remained clear-eyed about the road ahead. Progress isn't measured by policy changes alone, he reminded his audience. It's measured by the lived experiences of people who no longer fear being criminalized for existing. We're not there yet. For every step forward, every new training program, each accountability measure, resistance pushed back. Old habits clung stubbornly to institutions built upon them. The work continued, day by day, encounter by encounter. The uniform I wear represents a promise to protect all Americans, Major Holt concluded. Not just those who look a certain way or come from certain places. When we fail to honor that promise, we betray the very principles we claim to defend. His story, one among thousands, revealed how quickly dignity could be stripped away and how hard-won its restoration remains. Yet it also demonstrated the power of standing firm, of speaking truth, of refusing to let injustice pass unchallenged. Will you stand with those fighting for a world where no one is judged by appearance rather than character? Where uniform or skin color never determines how someone is treated? Subscribe now to join our community dedicated to sharing these crucial stories and building a more just society, one narrative at a time.